history shows us that, once countries get a lot of debt and stuff, that's what makes them crumble. That's what can really cause issues. So, yeah, that's one thing to be worried about because of, taxes cannot go down realistically. I mean, we have to at some point pay the bills. Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio. Today we're going to be looking at the Dirty Dozen. And these are some of the tax scams that the IRS has flagged for us to avoid. We're going to discuss some of these today with Eric Heckman. He is a certified financial planner, president at Heckman Financial right here in Silicon Valley. So excited to get started with you today. Let's start off with our phone number. I want you to have this throughout our show. You can call or text the word visit anytime, 800-454-1184. Call or text the word visit. You're going to also hear us talk about our digital toolbox, and that includes Eric's book that he's written and then other informative resources for your retirement. You can text the word toolbox as well. Okay, 800-454-1184. That's the number to remember. Also, our podcast comes out every Tuesday morning. You can find that wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. Just search for the name of our show, Wealth Creator Radio. Eric, hello to you.
Hey, Len. Yeah, it's good to be talking about this because definitely a subject that, probably almost at least once or twice a month, probably, I guess I'd say, that clients have some questions or some issues, and then you go, whoa, that's a scam. And the one actually I see a lot is stuff from DocuSign. And,
really?
And it looks like an official DocuSign thing. It says, it's got the logo and everything. I've even seen spam that has my picture on it, which is like, thanks for stealing my, my info, right?
Gosh, yeah.
And, but one of the first things to do is it's hard on your phones, but it's easier on a laptop. But when you're on your phone, lots of times you don't see the email details. So my little trick is you hit forward. And once you hit forward, it'll show you all the details. And then you can see that the email is like a total bogus email that, has nothing to do with that domain. So the website doesn't say DocuSign and stuff like that. And then that's when delete that. But we've definitely been seeing a lot of it there. So yeah, it's you got to watch out. There's a lot of people wanting to steal your money, unfortunately.
Right. The IRS created this Dirty Dozen campaign clear back in 2002 to combat tax scams all across the country. And they do tend to spike during filing season. But we may not have time to go over all 12 today, Eric. But the first one I want to get to is email phishing. Email phishing scams. Tell us about those.
Yeah, well, that's just when they're, like I said, with like the DocuSign or something, they're trying to get you to click on some link that may either load bad software on your computer, or maybe you just start typing in your personal data and it says, you need to reset your password, put your social, put your date of birth, stuff like that. And then they're getting all that data. And,
right.
Sometimes you see it from banks, sometimes you see it from law places. And I must admit, there's some of those that look super good. I mean, now some of them are pretty bad. They've got some really bad, grammar or English, use. And, you kind of go, okay, well, that's kind of a giveaway. A big company like that would, you'd hope have at least spell checked it and things like that. So, but yeah, you do have to watch it because anytime you're clicking on some link, it's always good to ask. I mean, anytime we send stuff to our clients, we say, hey, we're about to send you this, that's real. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and do it and stuff, just so that way they know. Because otherwise it's always good just to, if you think some company is sending you something, check with them first and then you'll often find out, oops, no, they're not
Right.
sending you anything.
Right.
So you have
Be
to definitely
careful.
be careful. Yeah.
Another warning from the IRS is about bad social media advice. Some of these tax tips that are floating around are just flat out dangerous, could land you in some big trouble with your taxes. Tell us about those.
Yeah, the kind of the craziest one I saw recently was this deal where you invested in this company, and the way you invested in this company, it would have to vote, and so it could
Hmm.
potentially not vote to do this, but basically this company would supposedly buy, things that charities need in bulk and then donate them at the retail price and, theoretically get it, passing on that savings.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one that this client sent me, and he was being referred by several of his friends, they said they were doing these, it was this stuff to identify where workers are in like a big warehouse. And if they're in dangerous areas, it would alert, whoever to tell people, oh, it's more hazardous. You're not supposed to be in that area.
Hmm.
So like, oh, okay. And then I looked at the charity. The charity was an after school charity in Fort Worth, Texas that did youth programs.
What?
And
What?
you just gotta go, what the heck's this
Yeah.
charity ever gonna do with this stuff? They
Well,
don't
yeah.
have any warehouses. They don't have any,
Especially in California, right? I mean,
but the way they were billing this was, here, you invest this 50 grand and we're gonna give you, a $200,000 tax write-offs
right.
because of we're going to buy in bulk and then donate at retail level. And first of all, is it really that big a discount? Is it really that big a difference? And that's really kind of scammy. And then once you looked at who that charity was, it's like, what? They would never even use this stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you got to watch out. There's a lot of scammy things on the internet.
Another common scam, Eric, involves scammers pretending to be third parties helping taxpayers set up personal accounts on irs.gov.
Yeah, no, don't ever, if somebody's calling you supposedly from the IRS, they're not. They don't call people. They don't have enough people to do that. So they send you letters. Yeah, so don't ever answer the phone to anybody who's saying that, or if they are, if they're saying that they're with IRS, just hang up and mark it spam and block the phone number, and don't ever answer that or give them any info. And especially if there's some sort of charity supposedly going to help you with tax or, yeah, skip all that stuff. And, one of the things that I think for us is really having people be educated, not only about the bad stuff out there, but also the good stuff.
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, yeah.
so one thing we do have is we have a vault that we've kind of set up and, or I guess I should say a toolbox that we've set up that really has all these great quick reads to educate yourself about, what's the right decision for Social Security? Am I paying too much tax in retirement? Will my money last as long as I do? Even have a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and way to set up a time to meet with me, Eric Heckman. If you want to get all that, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we're so happy you're joining us today. Thank you so much for listening to Wealth Creator Radio. I want to mention here, Eric holds many events throughout the year. And all you have to do is head to that website, Wealth Creator Radio, to find out details, even sign up for them on their website. I want to make sure you know that. So thank you again for joining us. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. We're spending some time on our show today talking about the dirty dozen. And these are tax scams that are out there that the IRS is warning us about. And then you already just mentioned the fake charities. They're the big one they're saying is that people are setting up fake charities.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good just to check out the charity, go to their website, find out reviews. There's a couple websites also that you can, where they rank charities in terms of how much they're doing and how much is
Oh.
going to admin and stuff.
Mhm.
So, yeah, definitely good to see if they're real because, yeah, you do have to watch out. I mean, obviously, it's a big name place, Red Cross, things like that,
Yeah.
the ones that we all know, United Way. Okay, those you can kind of count on. But yeah, if it's something a little funkier sounding, just definitely check it out to make sure.
And again, just to clear up confusion here for anybody listening, tell us the difference between tax preparation and tax efficient strategies, which is what you guys do. You help people with those strategies.
Yeah, well, tax prep is really, I really equate it more to tax reporting. So it's kind of like the reporter at the scene of the crime. This is what happened. There's nothing you can do about it. It's all over. It's done with. That's what you do between February and April every year, right, for your tax return. Tax planning or tax efficient strategies are things that you do maybe at the end of the year for the next year or the beginning of the year or just all throughout the year of how do you save money? How do you just pay less over your lifetime? And that's really what we're shooting for with our clients. So again, we've got some great information like, am I paying too much taxes in retirement? It's one of the options in there. And all of that's located in our digital toolbox. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox 800-454-1184 or download at wealthcreatorradio.com.
If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. There's a particular time of life this phrase couldn't be more appropriate. How can you know you'll live the retirement you've always imagined? After all, life can be so unpredictable. You've worked hard and saved. Watch your accounts go up and down with the market. Your advisor says, don't worry, you'll be fine. But you still don't feel confident. Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has a checklist to help you find out if you're on the right track for retirement. If you can check all the boxes with confidence, you may be ready for retirement. If not, Eric can help you address any potential costly mistakes. To get Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial's complimentary checklist, call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Call or text LIST to 800-454-1184. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. You know, when we think about risks to retirement, it's natural to focus on the big dramatic market downturns, right? Like those we've seen in the past and we're going to see in the future, of course. But those are not the only threats. The looming possibility of higher taxes, persistent inflation, and other challenges all contribute to the very real fear of outliving our savings. So, Eric, with so many risks coming from every direction, tell us how retirees can stay ahead of these challenges.
Yeah, well, there's some stuff you can't, really do anything about, right? Inflation's not something that you can control or, get a say so in. So it's just a matter of making sure you account for it. So in your planning, make sure that that money is going up over time. You would not want to, if you're working right now, you would not want to be making what you made 20 years ago, most likely. And same thing in retirement. You don't want to be 20 years into retirement and making the same thing you were 20 years earlier because, just won't be as good, right? And so that's one of the things that you have to do. The other one is just really having an income plan. The income plan is really the key because once you look at that income plan, you can say, okay, well, which bucket of money should I take money out of first? Like I've got a client who's about to retire here in April and he's pretty high up guy at Apple. And so he's been making lots of good money for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But in next year, he won't be on Social Security. He won't be getting the big stock options or anything like that anymore. So, his income probably won't be low, but his income will be lower. And so, now we can do some other stuff, some tax planning. But as we go along, once you have Social Security coming in, then you get more income. And then, of course, when you're having to take money out of your retirement accounts, even if you don't need it, then you even have more income. So, you got to plan for when those income time periods are lower and grab some of that and pay some taxes then, right? When it's low. But most people will do the exact opposite. They'll say, oh, no, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait till later, let it defer. And ouch.
Right. Yeah. So taxes, they're a huge concern for people. And then, you look at our national debt, where we are now. What is it now, Eric? 37 trillion or so? So,
yeah, right around there.
Yeah. So we know it's going to affect us somehow. I mean, taxes are going to have to go up, I would think.
Well, yeah. I mean, that you can kind of try to pretend in some sort of a Pollyannish world that you can just cut costs to the point where, there's somehow you're not going to spend any money, but that's not how the federal system's set up. I mean, more than the entire economy, the amount that that we get from all the taxes, all the revenue. So think of it as if this was you and your household income, meaning for the country, isn't even enough to cover the interest on the debt, Social Security, Medicare.
Oh my.
So the cost of the government's on top of all that. so
Right.
that's like saying your spendings, you're doing all the spending, but your mortgage is on top of that. Well, that's not good, right? You're going to be going backwards. So, that's one thing that anytime you hear any politician trying to either preserve tax cuts or give you more tax cuts, that they're cutting income, they're lowering their revenue, and then that means that they're putting it on that credit card, the national debt credit card, and history shows us throughout civilizations that once countries get a lot of debt and stuff, that's what makes them crumble. That's what can really cause issues. So that's one thing to be worried about, because of taxes cannot go down realistically. I mean, we have to at some point pay the bills, and whether or not that's a small thing or it's something sudden where nobody wants to buy our debt anymore, and it gets to be a huge issue. So, that's why, you really want to have a plan. You want to know, okay, how can I lower my taxes today? How can I lower my taxes? Really should be the bigger question should be, how do I lower them over my lifetime? And that's the question people don't ask enough. And so when we're meeting with people and we're talking to people and we're helping them with that income plan, we go through that blueprint to worry less wealth, where we figure out, where's that income going to come from? Will it last for the rest of their life? Hopefully, yes. And then beyond that, how is that money invested? Is it going to be able to put off that income? What are the tax ramifications? So income, investments, taxes, all very interdependent. And then healthcare issues, who gets your money, legacy issues when you're gone. Those are the 5 areas that you have to have a plan for. And that's what we do in the blueprint to worry less wealth, and something we can help you with. And so what we've done is we've actually set up a lot of educational materials for people for, just a quick read. So you can read about a 10-page thing about making sure your money lasts as long as you do, the Social Security timing decisions. Are you paying too much taxes in retirement? All these really critical things to know about. You can have a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even set up a time to talk with me, Eric Heckman. So all you got to do, super easy, just text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. And so we're talking today about, tackling the threats of taxes and inflation, among other things, in our retirement. Let's talk about steps that retirees can actually take right now to prepare for future tax increases. What are you helping your retirees with?
Well, one of the big ones is doing Roth conversions. So what does that mean? A lot of times people don't fully get that. That's when you're choosing to pay taxes even though you don't have to. Ouch, right? Nobody wants to do that.
Right.
And so why would somebody be crazy enough to do that? Well, if you're in a lower bracket now and you can pay that tax today, we're not talking $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 Roth conversions. We're talking 20 to 50. We're talking smaller dollar numbers. So you pay the taxes today. Not only does that now get rid of the tax for the rest of your life, but all the tax on the growth is gone for the rest of your life too. So that can be a huge amount of money depending on when you're doing it, how early you're doing it. And what we find is that it really, really makes a huge difference in somebody's lifetime income, how they're getting that money. The other thing too is making your other money tax efficient. And so this is something that I find a lot of people also don't pay attention to. And what I'm talking about there is like I had some clients that had inherited some money, and so they left a lot of it in CDs and bank accounts. And, it was from dad, and they didn't want to take a lot of risk with it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when we were looking at how much taxes that was causing them, and this is not money they're using, this is not money they need, it's just sitting in the bank, literally. So, but it was causing them to jump up into the next tax bracket even. And so if you can make that money also more tax efficient with your taxable dollars, then you're going to pay a lot less in tax. So again, most people, most financial advisors, they say, oh, well, we don't do tax advice. And then talk to the tax person, well, we don't do financial advice. And so nobody's getting this advice. So it's really awful. So yes, taxes have to be a key component of your planning.
So, one of the things that is kind of nerve wracking is that Congress could change the rules at any time, right? So, we've got to plan for higher taxes. But that kind of feels like, we have no idea what to expect. So, how are you helping your clients prepare for future taxation when it's unpredictable?
Yeah, no, definitely a good question. And, it's something where it's like you're playing Monopoly and then all of a sudden you're not supposed to buy this place or you can buy this place or,
Yeah.
all of a sudden the stack of cards are different. And how do you keep playing this game if the rules keep changing? But just be used to it, right? It's just going to be always the case. So really what we do with people is just making sure that they can have as much money as tax efficient. So doing stuff with Roth, doing stuff with especially design life insurance, other things that can be tax free, even just making things more tax efficient. So it's really just focusing on that and knowing that every 3 to 5 years, the rules of the game are going to change and we're going to have to get back together and figure that out. But, again, that's why we have stuff like, are you paying too much in taxes in retirement set up in the digital toolbox? So if you want to grab a copy of that, all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox 800-454-1184 or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Be sure to like and subscribe to Wealth Creator Radio so you can stay up to date on ways to build your wealth and create a retirement you and your family will enjoy for years to come. Like and subscribe today and create your wealth for tomorrow with Wealth Creator Radio.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial right here in Silicon Valley. In 2022, inflation soared to a 9.1%. That's the highest level since 1981. It hit everybody hard. But for retirees, it's more than just a pinch. It can threaten their financial confidence. So I want to get into inflation right now, Eric, and let's talk about why it poses such a uniquely significant problem for retirees.
Well, really, when you're working, hopefully you get raises,
Yeah.
right? And if you're on Social Security, you did get a big raise after that, after 2022, right, with that huge increase. But then of course Medicare rate, went up, groceries went up, all these other things go up, right? So that's one of the tough things is if you have a static income and all these things are going up and get more expensive, then you're staying even while everything else is going up past you, and that's not a trajectory you want to be on for a long period of time, right? So you need to have that planned into your financial plan of having that money, get bigger, have it, increase it a little bit each year, and just know it's going to happen. There's going to be always little spikes. I mean, that one was all pretty much because of COVID. The government, the Fed printed a ton of money and to get us all out of that downturn, and that worked, except for anytime they do that causes inflation. It was kind of like we knew that would happen.
I know, yeah.
So that's one of the things that you have to do is just really make sure that's part of your plan.
Can you give us some specific strategies that retirees could use for inflation?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, if you get Social Security, you do get a little bit of a increase there. If you're lucky enough to have a regular pension, most of those don't go up, but there's not many of those left, right? So unless you're a government employee, then those do go up with inflation. So the other part can really be is just making sure you have some other guaranteed lifetime income. So you want to have some money that you can basically with insurance companies nowadays, in essence, create your own pension. And if you have something like that where you've got some guaranteed money coming in, then you can use things like dividends, stock growth, hopefully, other things that you can use to offset those costs. But if you don't have a good base of income and then you're having to cash in more stuff, that can be not a good thing long term, right? Because then you're cashing in that principal, and that can eat up your money faster. So having it be part of your plan and having, like for us, we always have some money in foundational money, some stuff that's guaranteed. So that way you always have that money there, no matter what the markets are like, what the economic conditions are like, you've got some money that you can take out. Obviously, you have the market money, but in between, we always have about 10 to 20% steady income. And this is stuff that pays good dividends. It's got low volatility. And again, that's why you want to have that there, is because if things get more expensive and you got cash flow coming in, it makes life a lot easier.
Definitely a lot easier. So taxes, inflation, managing investments. making sure you don't outlive your savings. That's a lot to handle, and I always think, man, that'd be so hard to handle by yourself. So it's obvious that finding that right financial professional is critical. And that is something, that we talk about on our show, that this is what you do. You focus on retirees. What should people be looking for when they're trying to find someone to guide them through all these complexities?
Yeah, well, I see a lot of people turning to software programs, websites, and I mean, most of all the major brokerage houses have some, some site that says, "Oh, what's your money going to do?" But it's very, very basic kind of math, and it's not rooted in reality, unfortunately. So,
Mhm.
life isn't so linear that those little programs can work, and I don't think AI is going to be able to handle this quite yet, and because there's a lot of nuanced, types of things in there. So, I would say the first thing, anytime somebody's looking for a financial advisor, well, first of all, do you need one? And if you've never retired before, which most people haven't, so
That's true.
yeah, I would say it would be good to not to mess it up and to have some help there. At least talk to somebody because I always love the phrase, you don't know what you don't know, and, until
Till
somebody
you
tells you,
know
right?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
until you know it. So you may not even know what you're missing or what you're not even paying attention to. Little things like too much income can cause your Medicare premiums to go up. Rarely ever find anybody who knows about that, except for the people who got hit with it after the
Mhm.
fact.
Yeah.
So they didn't know about it beforehand, typically. And then the other thing too is what type of advisor is that? Is that somebody who works with everybody? Because, if they're working with 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds and you're in your 60s going to retire, very, very different type of, approach for those age timeframes, right? So, really like for us, we only work with pretty much people doing that shift from working life to retirement, usually late 50s, early 60s is when we have our clients, start working with us. But the other critical thing is when you go to retire, you can pick your tax bracket. Sounds weird. I know. How do
Mhm.
you pick your tax? Can't I just pick the lowest one? But you pick the tax bracket by which buckets of money you take money out of. So if you take money out of your savings, well, there's not much of a tax there. Take money out of your IRA, 401k, oh, there's a lot of tax there. So most people say, oh, they pick the one that has the least tax until I have to take all these taxable dollars. And then guess what? You go from 10 to 24% bracket and you're wondering how did I end up paying 140% more in taxes? Well, that's because you didn't have advice. And so that's why we're here really is to help people, formulate that plan, not just investments, but taxes all intermingled together because taxes, income, and investments, you cannot separate those three. And then, healthcare issues. If you're trying to retire pre 65, how are you going to pay for it? Post 65, what are the rules there? And then, of course, long term care. And then who gets your stuff, legacy issues. So, one of the great things we've set up is this digital toolbox. It's a really great resource where it's got a lot of different things like how to empower women investors, Social Security timing decisions, how to make your money last as long as you do, and are you paying too much money in tax in retirement? It's also got a digital copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth, and you can set a time and talk with me, Eric Heckman. So all you got to do is super easy. Text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And you are listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. So we've been talking about how inflation and taxes can erode retirement savings, but they can be easily overlooked, I think, when you're planning for retirement. So, Eric, tell us how you actually address these specific risks with your clients to help preserve their financial future. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So, one thing we already talked about, I think, was just making sure that income keeps going up.
Right.
You don't want to retire what you made 20 years ago, and and keep it the same number. You want to still be able to go off, have fun, because hey, you got 7 days a weekend, not two anymore,
That's
right?
right.
So that'd be one thing, and then really look at tax efficient strategies for your regular dollars. So I'm talking about non-IRA stuff. So your brokerage account, your bank savings accounts. How can we make those less taxable and stretch those dollars even longer? And of course, taxes is a risk that you're going to always have if they go up. So if we can make some of that money tax-free for the rest of your life, it's going to even help even beyond. So yeah, you got to have that part of the plan.
So, Eric, this type of planning is something that you could offer our listeners as well, right?
No, exactly. So yeah, if you're somebody who's, in their 50s, 60s, trying to figure out, even your 70s, if you're already retired, you're trying to figure out how to make this all work, how to lower your taxes, how do you make sure that money lasts for the rest of your life. Yeah, all you have to do is, you can set up a time to meet with us, and in our digital toolbox, or just get a lot of that great information and then, talk to us after that. But all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial, where it's their mission to get you to and through a worry-less wealth retirement. Now, Eric gets questions all the time. People find out he's a financial advisor and they ask him all kinds of questions, probably about the market, probably especially about retirement questions because there's so much involved there. So I know when you're off work, you probably don't feel like you're really off work, do you, Eric?
Yeah, well, there's always people to help, and we always try to help them out with that as much as we can.
What a good guy. Okay, well, we're going to bring these questions to the airwaves today, some retirement questions. So first question for you, Eric, is from Brent. And he says, I'm a few years away from retirement, but my mind's buzzing about my son. He just landed his first real job after college, and I couldn't be prouder. I'm looking to help him start his career strong without overstepping. Do you think it's a good idea for me to help him set up a Roth IRA?
Yeah, no, definitely. I've got 3 sons myself, so definitely the advice to anybody pretty much under 50. So not just only in their 20s, but anybody under 50, all you should be funding is Roth. Roth 401k, Roth IRA. Max out as much as you can. One issue with Roth IRA is there are income restrictions, and so depending on where you are income-wise, at some point you may not be able to do it anymore. So that's kind of another reason for somebody straight out of college to be doing it. But the Roth 401k, which pretty much every company has, if they have a 401k, you usually have the Roth option now. And, that's just the normal, contributions that anybody can do. There is no income restrictions. So, the more money you can get out of the government's hands and the growing on your side, it's huge because, if you put in, $7,000 into a Roth and it grows to $50,000 at retirement because of all those years, it was sitting there, right? That 50 is yours. But you put $7,000 into a traditional IRA, you might save $1,500, $2,000 maybe on your taxes. But now you owe tax on that entire $50,000. And not at today's brackets. At whatever the brackets will be way down the road when their national debt is very likely way, way bigger and larger. So if you can get it out of the government's hands, this is really for anybody of any age. You can be converting to a Roth. Anybody, there's no more. Since 2010, there's been no income restrictions on converting to Roth, which means you pay the tax now, which nobody likes to do.
No.
But, if you can pay the tax at a lower bracket and then have that money grow tax-free for a very long time, again, it's going to help you out. So yeah, go Roth when you can.
Go Roth. I love it. ROTH. So here's the phone number. If you do have questions and you want to come in and see Eric and our team at Heckman Financial and talk to them about converting into a Roth or setting one up, 800-454-1184. That's the number to call. And just so you know, again, if you don't remember, but this meeting is complimentary, okay? Here's another question as we dig into our Wealth Creator mailbag from Jonathan. And he says, I'm thinking about downsizing my home now that I'm retiring. Is it a more efficient choice to buy a smaller place outright or to invest more money and mortgage a new place? Oh, gosh, you probably get this all the time.
Yeah, well, actually, a lot of times I also get, should I not sell my house and just rent it out and then, then have a mortgage to buy another one? Because if you didn't sell it, right, you don't have the cash to buy the new place. And there's pros and cons to both ways. There's obviously being a landlord's a whole different issue and, all those stuff. I definitely, kind of almost specialize on accident in helping move people out of the Bay Area because it is so pricey and expensive. And so, I've got clients that have moved across the state and across the country both. And luckily with Zoom and everything else, they can stay being clients. But
love it.
But it is one of those things that I would say, probably 75-80% of the people who downsize to do this, the whole goal is to not have a mortgage. The goal is just to pay cash for a place. It depends on where you're moving to and what kind of things you're doing. Some people need bigger houses actually in retirement because they want all the bells and whistles and, they want the theater in their house and they want the, huge pool, the big workshop garage, which only comes in with the bigger house, right?
Right.
So, that might be a little bit tougher to do without a mortgage, depending on where you're going and how much equity you got. But I think most people prefer just to not necessarily. It doesn't have to necessarily be a smaller place. I mean, I had a client move from here to Lakewood, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver, and his house I think is now a 4,000 square foot house just for him, and he sold his 2,000 square foot house here and paid cash for that one, and so sometimes it's not smaller, but it's still paid off. So obviously depends on how much cheaper the area you're moving to is. So
right, yeah.
But then you have to look at the taxes. You got to look at all the other things. So that's definitely something where you want to get some more advice. You want to set up a time to talk with somebody. That's something we can easily do and kind of give you those numbers and give you those options. But one of the things we have set up here is this digital toolbox that not only can you set a time to meet with us, but you can also get a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth. You can download lots of great little reports that are fast reads, like what's the Social Security dilemma, decision dilemma of when to turn it on. Will your money last as long as you do in retirement? Am I paying too much money in taxes in retirement? All these great things are sitting there waiting for you to be downloaded. So all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox 800-454-1184 or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we're so happy you're spending part of your day with us. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, and this is Wealth Creator Radio. We're digging into our Wealth Creator mailbox today. Another question for you, Eric. This one's from Jennifer. She says, I've recently come into an unexpected inheritance. I'm wondering about ways to invest or what to do with this money. Can you guide me on investment strategies that could help me avoid a hefty tax bill?
Yeah, well, let's see. The first thing you're going to probably do is buy a car. That's what almost everybody does when they inherit money.
That's funny, really.
Hopefully not, Jennifer. But I mean, for most people, actually, when you inherit money, it's not typically a large tax bill because there's a magic thing called step up in basis at death, which it means if somebody paid $10 for $100 stock, they normally have a huge capital gain if they tried to sell it. But when they pass away, somebody inherits that stock at $100. So there is no more capital gain. Okay. Now, depending, I had one client that they held on to the house to get rid of mom's stuff and they didn't want to throw it away, so they had to give it away. They promised her they'd give it away to other people, and it took almost 2 years just to get rid of all the junk in there.
Whoa. Oh my.
And the only weird part is the house went up about $200,000 in value. So when they went to sell it, her and her brother both had to pay tax on $100,000 of taxable gain. That had they sold it right away, they wouldn't have had to pay the taxes on the gain, but they wouldn't have had the gain either.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad thing, but so for the most part, you don't typically have a tax bill. Now, one thing you have to watch out for is IRA money. Any retirement money is very, very, very complicated now. So depending on when the person died, you may have to take money out every year. You may not, depending on how old the person was who died, who left you the money. But you only have 10 years to spend it typically, unless that person was close in age, like a sibling. And so there's a lot of different rules, but the general gist of most inherited IRAs nowadays are you've got 10 years to spend it. So, when that person dies 10 years later, that money has to be gone to zero. So it used to be you could spend it out over 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So definitely get some really good advice, somebody who really knows what they're talking about anytime you're inheriting retirement monies, because of you screw up one piece of paperwork on that and there's no way to fix it. IRS is not nice about that.
Yeah. Dang. Okay. So best thing is for her to come in and talk to you.
Yep,
right.
sure.
800-454-1184. I think I have time for one more question in our mailbag. This is from Jerome. He says, I'm 68. My wife is almost 60. We went to leave an inheritance for our children, but I've heard so many different possibilities. Wanting to know, is life insurance a good way to do that?
Yeah, life insurance can be a great way to do it. It goes tax-free to the kids and such. So the hard part is if you're 68 and 60, it's gotten a lot more expensive. But there are some specialty types of policies where you just dump money in and they kind of work more like a CD, but then there is a death benefit there. So that way, if you need it, you can take it back. If you don't need it, then they get some larger dollars. Those are usually easier to qualify for too. So there's lots of different options with life insurance. It just matters on how much money you have and how much money you can afford to try to leave to the next generation, right? You want to make sure, that you're covered. But one of the best things about most life insurance policies now is they also have long-term care features where you can use that while you're living to pay for long-term care. So it might be a great way to protect your kids from them having to help you, pay for long-term care. And if you never need the long-term care, they just get a good inheritance. So, again, there's lots of different options out there. If you did want to set a time to talk with us, it's super, super easy. All you got to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, that's just texting the word visit, 800-454-1184. Or you can book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Thinking about healthcare costs, long-term care expenses, and income needs in retirement? How will you afford it all? And what can you do now to help ensure your loved ones will be okay when you're gone? Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has access to tools and strategies that can help you pursue your retirement dreams without taking on too much risk with your money. Interest rates are the highest they've been in decades, so take advantage of this seemingly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to help protect your retirement before it's gone. Learn about the tools and features available today that could provide bonuses, potentially adding up to tens of thousands of dollars in additional income when medical needs arise. Schedule your visit with Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial today by calling 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. These opportunities won't last forever, so call now to help protect your future. 800-454-1184.
Hey, thank you for spending your day with us today. So happy to have you along. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. And on our show, Eric often discusses challenges that retirees have in retirement. And in this part of our show, we always have Eric tell a story about something that's been going on with a client recently. And he gives us an example of, either something positive that happened or someone who's maybe experienced one of those obstacles that he brings up a lot. So, Eric, today you have for us a financial fail. And we hate to hear it, but actually we look forward to hearing it because we can learn from them, right?
Yeah, certainly. So one of the problems that I guess it's just kind of more of an emotional thing, right? But nobody, you're supposed to sell high and buy low,
Right.
right? But when things drop, people freak out and sell. And when things go up, why would I sell? Right. And it's
Yeah.
like, hold it. But you're ignoring the first rule, right? And so I
Yeah.
like to just sometimes call it financially done, for lack of a better term. But for a lot of people, once you hit a certain amount of assets, you don't need tons more money. You don't need to make those hit those home runs, or whatever analogy you want to use. You just need to make sure that money doesn't go away. And I've seen it way too many times. I saw it a lot in the dot-com crash, where people had enough and then they hung on, and then they ran those stocks right back down to the ground. But I've even had one client who has lost multi-millions of stock value two different times. Luckily, his last job was very good and he got it all back and stuff. But yeah, his wife was like, okay, Bob, you're not allowed to put it all in company stock anymore.
Right.
We have to move some stuff that to something that's guaranteed, some monies that's going to be there for the rest of our lives. So that way, in case this happens for the third time,
Right.
that at least we're going to have some money. We're not going to run out. And so, so that's one of the things that you have to watch out for, is just, if you've got enough, don't screw it up, right? Don't
Right.
sometimes people just they've got a decent amount, they've saved, it may not be tons of millions, right? It may be $1 million or whatever, but when we do the income plan, they're gonna be fine,
Right.
unless another huge drop comes, and that's another crash comes, and they have to sell stuff in a down market. So again, that's where having that foundational money along with the market money and some steady income money, that's going to be really what makes people succeed. Because the ones that fail the most are the ones that they have it 100% in stock market and go to retire. And then when the market's down 20-30%, you still need to pay the bills that month.
Yeah.
You still need to go buy groceries. You still need, there's still a lot of stuff you got to do. And you sell those shares, even though you're not supposed to sell in a really bad market. But
Hmm.
when you're retired, math is different,
You
right? You
got to
got to
do
take
what
it
you,
out. You can't,
yeah, got to do what you got to
yeah,
do.
you need the money. You
Yeah.
ain't getting the money from anywhere else. So
Right.
so that's one of the things, is by protecting some of that and making sure that it's not all going to go away. Because I've seen it too many times where people also, like, they'll do just some crazy stuff. I mean, I have one client where he put in half his net worth in Bitcoin because it was going up so much, and then of course it crashed back down, and then it goes back up, but he still doesn't want to sell. And it's just like, he was gonna, I'm gonna buy this beach house. Nope, not gonna buy. Now nope, not, because every time it goes up or down, he can't do it, and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then he does, just emotionally never wants to sell. And so, yeah, it's hard, and
Right.
that's where sometimes having a financial advisor who's not as emotionally tied to it as you are
Right.
can obviously help out and kind of give you a little bit more advice that you can maybe sometimes not see clearly on your own. Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word Toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out that Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.